Alright, quick build video. This is one of the things that I've been using in the last couple weeks or so. It's not the strongest build that I've ever used, but it's probably one of the most effective, and I'll show you why in a minute. Basically, starting out, I've used a Bloodspawn set. Everything is tri-stack glyphed, and everything is impenetrable. I've got one heavy, I've got one medium, and everything else is light armor. Bloodspawn gives you a lot of resistance, as well as giving you a ton of ultimate back. This is kind of the go-to helm for just about any situation. The second set that I've used is the Crafty Alphex Jurgen, and basically all this thing does is give you a lot of magicka, which is really a good thing for a sorcerer. You get a lot of magicka back, and it really helps you in terms of keeping your magicka high, as well as your shields. The other set that I've used is the Lich set, and I've got everything in arcane and spell damage.
Round up the mortals. The games must continue.
Now, I was using the protective trait, but that got nerfed so bad that I really didn't feel like it was worth it anymore. If you need a little bit more resistance, you know, go ahead and use that trait, but I haven't done that. My resistance is actually kind of low, but it's made up for by the Bloodspawn set as well, and I use shields a lot, so it really doesn't, most of the time, the damage doesn't get to me anyway. I've got a sharpened Lich Staff with a shock damage glyph. Now the shock damage glyph gives you minor vulnerability, which can give you about 8% more damage as well. Now, the other set that I've used is a restoration staff. Now, if I use this correctly, I tap him with this at the beginning of a fight. It'll raise my spell damage all the way up to just under 3,300. Using the weapon damage and spell damage glyph that I have on the fuse trait. So this can be pretty effective. Anyway, that's what I use for that. For my skills, my spammable is Force Pulse. Now each one of these can crit, basically flame damage, frost damage, and shock damage. They can all crit as well, so this is actually a little bit more powerful than it looks. This is Rune Cage. This is the way I trap people. The other way I use is to streak through them, and this is a very effective skill. If you learn this as a sorcerer, it can really help you. Structured Entropy, this will give me major sorcery, and it heals you as well, and does a ton of damage over time. Let's see. Buffed up, I'm looking at about 26,000 damage over 12 seconds. That's quite a bit. Endless Fury is a really good way to whittle them down. Once they get under 20%, basically they're done. Hardened Ward. This is your protective shield, and it's not a lot since the shield nerfs, but it's still decent. And of course I've got power overload. Now going to the other side, I've got critical surge. This is important. This is a mark to have, It's here under your Storm
Round up
Comlink
the
skills.
mortals. The games must continue.
You're going to want to use this instead of Power Surge. Power Surge got a real nerf, and I don't really understand it, but anyway, it does. It can only heal you once every 3 seconds. This can heal you basically every second. Now, if you're using Force Pulse, the fact that each of these has a chance to crit, basically this will proc crit throws just about every time. Of course, Streak, Boundless Storm, this gives you physical and spell resistance and major expedition for a short period of time. Dark Conversion, this is kind of the go-to skill for any sorcerer. Basically, it gives you magicka back, and it gets you health as well. And this is rapid regeneration. Now, there's 2 morphs to this, and it's kind of up to you how you want to use it. But if you're good with this, enemies are going to have a really tough time trying to kill you. Buffed up, I got almost 20,000. Health regen over 5 seconds. So basically, if I'm in trouble, all I'll do is hit this and do a few dark deals, and I should be pretty close to full health at that point. This can critical heal as well. And of course, Light's Champion. Now, this is an ultimate, which is basically fed from your blood spawn. So this will just about always be up for you.
Come, mortals! The Devourer needs fresh meat!
So the way I've been using this during the Imperial City event, there's a lot of Nightblades which go into hiding in the center, and basically they're bombers and that sort of thing. And what I'll do is I'll go and use one of these potions, and it doesn't really matter which one you use, Essence of Immovability, but basically you can reveal Nightblades with this or with this. So basically you run around with these two, and once you see a Nightblade, basically you hit them with Structured Entropy, and that's your damage over time, and then you lock them in place with Ring Cage. And then you have a few options. You can try to kill them, you know, the standard way with, say, like with Force Pulse, or using these two together and Endless Fury. And of course that works, but works even better is to get your Power Overload to kick in. Basically, buffed up, your Power Overload will hit for about 12.6k, and it really knocks him down pretty quick. Now, if you feel like you're going to finish him off, of course, you want to hit him with the Endless Fury as well, because once they get down to 20%, this will just about always finish him off. Now, with Nightblades, I'm going to say just about 95% of the time I've been able to knock him down with this. Basically,
where did that little green one
hit him
go?
with this, lock him down, use Force Pulse, Endless Fury, or if you want to go at it even quicker, I use Power Overload. And basically, you know, you use that, and that'll knock their health right down. Usually they die within the first 5 seconds or so. So anyway, that's kind of what I've used. Another really effective thing when you're up against groups of people is to streak through them, and it kind of disorients them. They don't know where you are, but you can actually stun whole groups of people this way. And
Round
if
up the
you're
mortals.
using
The
streak,
games must continue.
basically you'll have a real advantage as a sorcerer. It gets you out of the way of trouble and that sort of thing, and it's really effective that way. So anyway, just one of the things people want to get better at PvP and that sort of thing.
Legion Zero belongs to us.
I would say the way
We
you
should
would do
kill
that
them and
is
raise them.
get into the sewers and basically look for boss fights and that sort of thing. Practice
Young mortals, the devourer needs
keeping
fresh
your
meat.
keeping your buffs up, and you can streak through your. There's a bunch of NPCs down there, and you can just streak through them, come to the other side, hit them from the other side. That way, if you're practicing there, and then once you get good at it, you can pretty much do the same thing to players. When you run into them, and it's a pretty good and effective way to learn that stuff. Getting through, getting to a point where you want to. You want your reflex to be fairly quick. Now, I would say if you're able to fight banner bosses and that sort of thing, basically you're ready to PvP as well. So I've had a few friends that kind of struggle with this, and that's a really effective way to do things. If you want to get better, you just practice on the mobs there, and then when you get into a real fight, it'll all come as second nature. So anyway, this build's been a lot of fun. The amount of magicka that I can regen is really effective, and it makes me very hard to pin down. I mean, of course, if you're up against a real large Zerg, I mean, sometimes there's just no getting away from it, but if you're using streak and that sort of thing, a lot of times you can pick off enemies from outside the group there, and when you want to turn on the burst, you just hit power overload, and it's really effective in knocking enemies down. So anyway, I guess that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and upload this, and that's what I've been using lately. So I've actually preferred it over anything else, just because it does make me a little bit more agile, and just I'm able to get a lot more done due to the magic recovery. One other thing, blood spawn is kind of imperative for stamina recovery. As you can see, my stamina recovery is fairly low. One of the reasons I'm able to get away with this is I'm a high elf, and I get spell recharge. Using class abilities will restore magic or stamina, whichever is lower. Being a magicka character, it'll restore stamina. I haven't really had a lot of problems with this. Another part of the build is I've used tri-stat glyphs, which basically give me more stats all the way around. So my stamina pool, it isn't terrible. It's pretty good for a magicka character. Using the sharpened staff in previous times, of course, I've used infused, but sharpened is actually a little bit more effective against players. I've talked to some players out there Perch Pelican being one. He recommends a sharpened staff, and there's a couple other people that recommend that as well. So this is the way I've gone. It does actually feel a little bit stronger. Now, as far as the differences aren't huge. I mean, you know, you can use, you know, other staffs as well, but sharpened is probably the best one. So I guess that's about it. I hope you guys have found this helpful. Oh, covering one other subject. Somebody brought this up to me. There's players out here using like keyboard programs and that sort of thing, and I've seen it, and I'm not sure that there aren't hacks as well. It's just not something that I would want to do. You know, if you get to the point where you're doing all that, you know, just to win, I kind of feel like you've sort of lost yourself. You know, I don't need to win that bad. I just, you know, I'm just here to have a good time, maybe have a few drinks, get on here, see my friends, do build videos, that sort of thing. I guess that's kind of where my head's at. I'm not really, you know, I don't have to necessarily win all the time, although I do push in that direction. You know, I'm not really oriented that way. So I've enjoyed the game being what it is, and I guess that's to me that's what it's all about. It offers me a way to kind of get out of the house without actually getting out of the house, and see my friends and that sort of thing. So that's what I've done. So anyway, I guess that's about it. I hope you guys have found this useful, and I guess I'll see you out there soon. Take care.